Hey,
How you doing, buddy?
good. How are you?
Good. Thank you so much for doing this. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Okay, so as I talked about in the intro, you moved to Nashville 25 years ago. Can you tell me a little bit about that experience?
Yeah, well, I mean, I grew up in Los Angeles. I was born and raised out there. And, when I finished college at USC, I'd been studying studio and jazz guitar, and I was getting to know a lot of the film scoring people that were going to school studying that at USC. And my goal was to be playing on TV shows and movies and stuff like that, and having these film scoring composers hiring me for stuff. And after, I was doing a lot of projects for them while I was at school. And then when we graduated, a couple of the guys started calling me for projects. When they start getting projects, they'd call me to come and play on them. And one of the sessions that I was going to do was at the Disney studio up in, I think it was North Hollywood or something like that. I didn't make the session because I got stuck in traffic. And it was a pretty monumental, thing for me to miss out on that session because, I would work so hard to get these clients, to call me for doing these sessions, and I had done a good job for them, but when you miss a session, they don't call you back. And that was what happened. And so I kind of had to make that choice. I was either going to have to move up to like Studio City or North Hollywood, or think about doing something different. And at that time, I had started playing with a country band in LA, and we were playing a lot of the honky tonks, around Orange County and Riverside and stuff like that in Los Angeles. And I started learning more about Nashville, and I've come to find out that, the studio scene was alive and well there, and they were still doing real recording sessions with full bands like they did in the 60s, 70s, and 80s in Los Angeles, which I think that in LA is probably in Nashville is one of the few places where they're still doing that. Because I know in Los Angeles, I don't think they're really doing a whole lot of full band sessions. A lot of it's, guys doing it in their homes, and, like all the pop music on the pop music things, it's all, in the box and, drum loops and no real drums and very little guitar, and Nashville actually still has guitars on records, and they still have live drums and as well as drum loops, but they will also incorporate live drums and bass and guitar. So when we go and do a session in Nashville, it's full band. Yeah. It's like the good old days in Los Angeles where the way they used to do it. And so I think it's one of the few places that really still exists.
That's awesome. And so that's kind of what drew you to Nashville then.
For sure.
In what year did you move to Nashville?
1995.
So 1995. So you were basically transitioning over when LA was coming out of, you said, that grunge scene,
right?
Kind of going through that and then moving on to the poppy scene, right? Kind of moving through there. And then moving to Nashville. So what was your first experience in Nashville then?
Well, Nashville, just to kind of get my feet wet, I started taking jobs with touring as a touring guitar player for different country artists. So you mentioned some of the names of some of the artists that I'd worked for.
Yeah.
And it was really fun. We were playing, getting on a tour bus and being gone 200 days a year and playing arenas all over the country, which is a lot of fun. And I'm really glad that I had that experience. And as a younger guitar player, that was a lot of fun for me. I don't really do it that much anymore. Yeah. But I still go out and play there's a couple of artists that still hire me to go and play shows with them and stuff. Well, prior to COVID, of course, but
exactly.
But not to the extent that I was doing it when I was younger. I was doing it pretty much full time back then.
And that's amazing. 200 days out of the year. So how did you manage then, like, say, home life back home in Nashville? Did you have an apartment? Did you have bills you had to pay and all of that?
Yeah, I had a condo. And so it was really simple. I didn't have any yard to take care of or anything like that. So I just had a condo and just come home and sleep in my bed and wash my clothes, for, the few days that I was home and pay some bills and then be back out on the road. But, with Nashville, most of the country touring acts, they're out on the weekends for the most part. So it's like Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and usually home Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and you probably leave out Wednesday night or Thursday night. You get on the bus at midnight and roll off to wherever you're going to. And the summertime, you could be gone for a few weeks at a time, like maybe a month or so in the summer. But for the most part, it's not like a rock and roll tour where you're gone 6 months, and it's always coming back home every week or so.
So where was your favorite place to perform?
Oh man, Red Rocks for sure.
Yeah, right.
That's still my favorite place that I've ever played. The Red Rocks and the Gorge in Washington is really beautiful also.
Okay. I hear the sunset. I hear the sunset at Red Rocks. There's just nothing like it.
Unbelievable. Yeah, that's unbelievable.
That's pretty cool. That's awesome. Yeah. So I want to kind of transition into, since you've worked with so many artists, and when you're playing on stage with an artist, somebody who you've worked with for a while, what is a guitarist? What are you looking for in a vocalist? What do you want them to give you as a vocalist?
Well, for the most part, the vocalist is the one that hires me. So I'm looking for an artist that's going to pay me, and have dates. That's the most important thing. But I understand the spirit of the question. What you're asking is, for me, for a singer to kind of understand music, I think is a big important part, because a lot of times, singers that don't play an instrument, they don't really have an understanding of what it is that we do, and they don't really know what to ask of us, because sometimes they'll say, oh, I want something different, but I don't really know how to tell you what it is. And you have to kind of read their mind. And that becomes a little challenging to do that. But if there's when you're working with a singer, like some of the singers that I've worked with that actually play guitar, they can articulate what they're looking for a little bit better. They're like, oh, I want you to do this signature lick here, and, take a solo here, and, this, that. They kind of understand that a little bit better than somebody that doesn't really play an instrument. So I think having an understanding of music, and just that if you could play an instrument, keyboards or guitar or whatever, you'll be able to relate to the musicians in the band, not just for me, but for all the musicians, and talking about tempos and what kind of count off are you looking for? And a lot of times with singers, you have to kind of, you get to know their rap, like in between songs, they'll kind of say the same thing between songs.
Yeah.
And with some singers, like I've worked with some artists that didn't even have a set list, and you kind of knew by what their rap was as to what the next song was going to be. That's always kind of challenging. But, understanding that, if you have something that you can give us, the musicians, to know like what that next song is. If you have a set list, that's great. And that's easy, but, and then knowing like, another big thing is like knowing how long do you want us to let you talk? Do you want us to have some music going on in the background, kind of vamping while you're talking? Or do you want it to be dead stage, where you're just kind of like doing your thing? So when you're the artist, you got to kind of make that call, is whether you want, the songs to go. Because some artists, they're not really comfortable talking between songs. Mm-hmm. So they're like, go, 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 go. But another thing that can be really challenging is that, like, because for guitar players, for me, and sometimes for drummers, because they have to load in drum loops and tracks and things like that, sometimes you need a little bit of, you can't just go song to song, because like if I got to change a capo position, or if I have to switch guitars, so certain guitars are tuned, I have some guitars that are tuned down a half step, to facilitate some of these songs in the keys that they want to do them in. I have to have numerous guitars, and some of them are tuned a certain way, like a drop D or a half step down tuning or something like that. Yeah. And if you're going straight from one song to the next, and I don't have that guitar yet, I can't, it's just not going to happen. You're going to miss an intro or something like that. And that happened to me when I was playing with Trace Adkins. One time he was, we had a set list, and I had a guitar tech, and I'd get together with a guitar tech before each show, and I'd look over the set list, and I'd say, okay, I want this guitar, for each song. I tell them which guitar I want for each song. Some of them have a capo on it, some of them didn't. Well, we were doing this show in Breckenridge, Colorado, where the elevation is really high. Yeah. And this is important for a singer to know, is like, you got to check your elevation, because the air is a lot thinner there. Yes. And you're going to get winded a lot quicker.
Yes.
So if you got these big notes that you're singing, he's hitting the oxygen tank between each song, because he was literally running out of breath. Because that air is so thin there, and singers know that, it's such the air and the oxygen and where you're placing that, is so important, for when you're singing. Yeah. But he was like really getting winded, on singing some of these songs. So he wanted to skip a song, and he gets on, we're all on in-ear monitors, and he goes to the microphone that goes just to us. and he says, hey, I'm skipping this song, going to this song. Well, by the time he did that, my guitar tech was already on the way out with the wrong guitar. He was on his way out with the guitar that we were supposed to be doing. I mean, he was right. Yeah. But then the artist decided he was going to change the song. And the song was like a song that had a drop D intro guitar lick. And so I needed a different guitar. I told him, go get the other guitar. You know, he just switched the song. Yeah. So he had to run back over and go get the other guitar. And he wanted to count it off so fast that he didn't give us the time to get the right guitar so that I could play that lick, which is right at the beginning of the song. And so consequently, you know, the drummer kicks off the song and there's no guitar lick there, you know, and like, you know, I mean, as a singer, you know, that's something for a singer that's important to know, is that you got to understand that if you're going to change up the set list, you know, you got to talk a little bit and give us some time to prepare for that. You know, we don't just have you know, like a piano is like you're just playing, you know, you don't have capo positions and things like that, and retuning, you know, the piano and bass guitar, they don't either. And I mean, pretty much it's just the guitar that has to really worry about that, you know, where you have different capo positions and stuff like that. And when you change your capo on the guitar, or take it on or put it on or take it off, the guitar goes out of tune. So you have to retune it a little bit also, you know? So, I mean, and that's important for a singer to know also. If you're going to change songs, just make sure that you give your band an opportunity to make that adjustment and be prepared to start your song, you know?
I love that. I love that. Communication is key when it comes to this. Communication, communicate, you know, and really take the time to really, you know, I always tell my singers, really take the time and talk to your musicians. Let them know what's going on.
Exactly.
And really, you know, and I think that's what I love that you said, is really have a basis of, you know, just a basic knowledge of theory and musicianship. So you can go over and say, okay, I know this next song is in drop D, or have a, just a sense of what a guitarist has to go through.
Right,
you know,
right.
I know you're drop D. Now, did he apologize to you afterward for not?
No, he was mad.
He was like, dude, I did the wrong guitar. Like, yeah.
Right, exactly. Yeah, he was mad. He was like, where's that guitar lick? And we're like,
well, it's over there. It's over there on stage. That's where it's
on the truck still, you know?
Exactly. So communication, taking your time.
But yeah, so he didn't have a really good understanding. I mean, he plays just a little bit of guitar, but I don't think he totally understood that song that he wanted to go to had that drop D guitar lick, and you know, I didn't have that guitar, and the guitar that he was bringing out had a capo on the 3rd fret, and it was just, you know, just a nightmare. You know, you try and take that capo off and it's all out of tune and everything. So there's no way to really kind of save yourself from that. So, but you know, if he'd understood, or at least, you know, talk, you know, for a minute, you know, tell a story, tell a joke, you know, hey, you know what, just tell everybody, say, hey, you know what, I'm having a hard time up here. I'm not used to this thin air, and I'm having to hit the oxygen tank, and you know, and so we're gonna skip this other song and skip to this other song that I can sing, you know, or whatever, you know.
I think people would love that, though.
I think so too. I think it's endearing, you know, when you say, hey, you know what, I was gonna sing this song, but man, I don't got the oxygen for it tonight, you know. It's thin air up here, so you know, I think people would love that. I think they think that's kind of funny, but he didn't think of that, and.
Yeah.
So anyway.
And that's live performance, right? That's just live performance. Things happen. That's awesome. So now let's shift, because you've done both. I want to shift now and go into the recording studio.
Right.
What are some of the things now, because you're still going into the recording studio, right? And so what are some of the things you're looking for when you're working with a vocalist in the recording studio as opposed to live?
Right. So what I'm looking for, you know, as a producer is, you know, and there's a misconception, I think, when people think about getting a record deal, they think I have to be the best singer there is. You know, I have to be the singer that has the huge range and all the rest of the stuff. That's not necessarily the people that get the big record deals. I mean, if you listen to pop radio, if you listen to country radio, the biggest stars do not have the best voices. They do not have the biggest ranges. You know, you have to get good at what you can do. And, you know, what I tell, you know, the people that I'm working with, that I'm producing and stuff like that, it's more important to develop a marketable brand, something that is so identifiably you. You know, your voice is part of that. And the songs that you select or the songs that you write is going to reflect that. And that's a big part of, you know, why artists are successful and why aren't. I mean, the best singers in this town, in Nashville, are background singers. They sing circles around the guys and girls that have the record deals, that are the famous ones that you see on the CMA awards and stuff like that.
Yeah.
The people that are singing the background vocals are phenomenal. And they all tried to get record deals also. And they were world-class singers and way better singers than the people that got the record deals. But the only difference was that they didn't get that record deal because they didn't get that marketable brand. And they didn't figure out that there's a marketplace. And this is what, record labels are looking for. They don't care if you have a 10 octave range or a 5 octave range or whatever. They're more concerned with like that you can sing like you, and that what you do is different than what everybody else is doing. And that you've got a certain sound or a certain like I always use Kenny Chesney as an example. He's not a great singer. His range is maybe an octave, maybe a fifth. His songs are, not really vocal heavy, songs. But what he does is he found a niche. Like he kind of became the Jimmy Buffett of country music. He started singing about sitting on a beach and drinking a beer and, and throwing his cell phone in the ocean and, and watching the sun go down into the ocean. And that thing made him like the biggest act in country music for a while there, because he found that niche that nobody was really doing, that, beachy country thing, the Margaritaville, the whatever, I mean, Jimmy Buffett, his concerts are like, it's more of an experience. I think when you go to a Jimmy Buffett concert, you're going there to like, be transported to an island, even if you live in middle America, you're going to be transported to an island for a couple hours, and you're going to forget about everything. You're going to have a good time. You're going to party and you're going to drink rum and, whatever. Yeah. And I think that kind of thing, you want to be able to, more important than being able to have a huge range, is just be good at what you do and find a marketable brand that you're believable singing about. You got to sing something that people are going to believe you. If you sing in like, drinking songs and you don't drink and stuff like that, people are going to, I don't know if I totally buy that, whatever. Yeah. But, I think that the most important thing that I'm looking for with an artist is that they found a marketable brand, something that is going to resonate with a large number of people.
I thank you so much for saying that.
Right.
I emphasize that all the time. And what I try to tell my clients and the project members, because I always tell them, that's why I call it the vocal project, because your voice is a constant project. It's going through evolution. It's going through changes and ups and downs. But one of the main things I always tell them is it's unique. Use its uniqueness. Don't try to sound like somebody else, because that person already sounds like them.
Totally.
So let's take your beautiful timbre and use that. Exactly. But we're living in a society right now, Erik, where I think, we have all of these TV shows.
Yeah.
And and if you notice it, they're brainwashing our singers into thinking they need to have 8 octaves in order to make it.
Exactly.
And like you and I would go, in a song, when do you ever use 8 octaves?
Right, exactly.
I've never seen it.
Think about The Voice or American Idol, and think about how many seasons of American Idol have we had, and how many of those winners have gone on to be huge stars.
Mm-hmm.
You could probably count them on one hand.
On one hand.
That have really become huge stars, because that's not what it's about. Mm-hmm. And the only ones that did, they found their niche. They found that marketable brand that involved their voice. But I mean, think about like a guy like Bob Dylan, and the way he sings. Arguably not a great singer, but he's got a character voice, that that voice. Yep. Wherever you hear him sing, you could sing 2 notes. You're like, oh, it's Bob Dylan, or whatever, and I mean, for 50 years, he's been a superstar, and had a career and had an amazing career doing it. But the thing is that it didn't really matter, because he wrote great songs and he found that niche that worked with his voice. And it didn't really matter that he wasn't the best singer in the world or whatever, it doesn't really matter. Everybody has a unique voice. And whatever that voice is, if you can write, hit songs that are, fill that void and find a niche that hasn't been done yet, you're going to have a good chance of being successful.
That's amazing. That is so, it's so happy for me to hear you say that, because, It is. I can't emphasize that enough to them. And the one singer that I use is Frank Sinatra. Everybody knows Frank Sinatra. Right. Everybody knows how amazing, and people come in. He's such an amazing. I was like, Frank Sinatra really couldn't sing, people. Like, he didn't have that voice. But he found, like, his phrasing, the way that he was an artist with his song, and the way that he connected with the words in the song made you believe that he was an amazing singer.
Exactly. And he always sang stuff that was right in his range. And there you go. Found, he's not going to step outside of that world. He's going to step, like whatever's right in his range. He always sang it, and he sang it, amazing, for what it was.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So tell us a little bit about your producing. What are you producing these days?
Well, I'm working with a few different artists. I just finished a song with an artist named Ty Herndon, who's a country artist that had a lot of big hits in the 90s, and a girl named Kristen Chenoweth, who was, she's been in a lot of big Broadway shows, been in a lot of TV shows and movies and stuff like that. And she's a classically trained singer. And so bringing her together with Ty Herndon, we just produced this track that's going to be coming out here real soon. It's just a unique balance because such a different voice, because Ty is like, he's a male baritone, voice with, kind of has some bluesy phrasings and stuff like that, where he'll kind of slide into notes and stuff like that. And we're singing a duet with a girl that is like a perfect classical singer that probably has an 8-octave range. She's got
I think it's 5-6 octaves.
Yeah, exactly. And the way that she sings is very straight, like right on the notes and stuff like that. And it's kind of neat to hear the two of them. Like he sings one verse and she sings another verse, and it's so different, but it's cool because he's bringing in that male baritone country voice, and she's bringing in this soprano, classically trained, with the vibrato and the whole bit, and it's cool. It's just she's a Broadway singer, and, and does a lot of the Broadway productions and stuff. I think she was like one of the leads in Wicked.
Kristen Chenoweth in the Broadway world, because I work with a lot of Broadway singers. Kristen Chenoweth is it in the Broadway world. Like she's the pinnacle. Everybody knows who Kristen Chenoweth is because, and she has such, like you said, such a range, great dynamics. She has great technique. One of those kind of really, if we were to look at it, one of those really natural sort of singers. We would call her like the LeBron James of singing. Like
for sure.
That naturally just happens. You can't teach it. You can't. You get people try to emulate. Don't try. But very talented singer. Very talented.
Amazing.
So I want to get back on that. So then, how did you produce? You've never produced a Broadway classical singer before.
No, I haven't. And so what we did, actually, I didn't even produce her vocal because we cut the track. I produced the track here in Nashville, and Ty sang his part here in Nashville. And then we flew the session out to LA because Kristen's, she's got a home in LA and one in New York.
Okay.
She happened to be in Los Angeles. So we flew the session out to an engineer in Los Angeles, and she went into the studio and recorded it there.
Okay.
And then sent it back, and I had my mix engineer mix it, and we just got it mixed and mastered last night. So it's going to be coming out soon. I don't know exactly, where it's going to, but they have some plans for it.
That's awesome. Awesome.
That is really great.
So unique. That's so unique.
Yeah. I don't know if I could really produce her because she's so amazing. I'm like, what am I going to tell her? She's amazing. So
just do you.
But anything I tried to tell her would probably not be like what her natural instinct would be. And I wanted her to do what her thing is because it's so great.
Yeah. If you were, but I have never, honestly, in all my years, seen a Broadway singer come with a country singer.
I've seen
the kind of poppy singer go with the kind of, like Lady Gaga and Tony Bennett. Those cross over. Country doesn't cross over with Broadway at all.
Different. Yeah, it's so different. Yeah.
You can't wait to hear that.
It'll be interesting to see what they do with it. But I've been producing Ty. I produced his last 2 records.
Okay.
And I work with a lot of new artists too, and a lot of young artists that are trying to develop themselves. And there's a record label that's actually based in Orange County right now. And they're trying to move here to Nashville. They're called Black Sheep Records. And I'm working with both of their artists that they've signed, writing with them and producing them and helping to build marketable brands on these 2 artists. And And the label, I've been talking with them about doing some work for the label also, more on the A&R side of things, where, because I got a pretty good understanding of how Nashville works from being here as long as I have, and
absolutely
kind of figuring out like what works at radio and with a lot of these country artists that I've worked with, I've gone out on these radio tours, and the radio tour is such a great learning experience if you really keep your antennas up and you're paying attention to what's going on, because we're sitting with program directors that are deciding what songs are getting played and what songs are not getting played. And so while I'm listening to the, like we'll go and play in the radio station, we'll play live on the radio, and then, the record label people will take them out to dinner, and we all go out to dinner together. And so I kind of pick in their brain, while we're out there, and you're like, so what is it that you're looking for? What kind of songs, and why would you play this song and not play this song? And it's, a lot of it just, makes perfect sense. You think about a radio station, the way they make their money is on advertisements, right?
Yep. Yep.
So if they say, we're going to play 20 songs in a row, commercial free, which songs do you think they're going to pick? The 4-minute songs or the 2-minute songs?
Exactly. There you go.
They're going to pick 20 of the 2.5-minute songs and get back to those commercials again. So you have to think like they do, and that's what a lot of musicians and singers and stuff aren't in the their artistic side is the place where they always go, and that's what they know. But when you're trying to do this for a living and you want to be successful as an artist, you have to think about it from that perspective. And to be successful, you have to be on the radio. I mean, you have to have your songs, move up the charts and get a #1 song on the Billboard charts or Media Base or whatever. And if you can do that, you have to understand. And it just helps to understand from that perspective. You have to think of the business side of things.
Yeah, absolutely. And so can you talk a little bit, because you went through the whole change, can you talk a little bit about a lot of people signing? You had to get signed with a record label. You had to go through with the big labels. And now it's kind of crossed over to where you don't have to be with a label anymore. You can kind of produce your own stuff. And now it's all streaming. How is that? How have you adapted to that, Erik?
It's crazy. I just had a really interesting experience just recently. A young girl that I've been writing with, we wrote this song. She went into the studio and cut it and just started to release it on her own independently on some streaming services. Well, she got onto TikTok. Are you familiar with that? TikTok?
Yes. Oh, yes.
So TikTok is like this service where you can put part of your song, maybe just like a chorus of your song, and people can put their videos to your song. Well, our song is called it's a daddy-daughter song. It's called it's called Half the Man, but the hook is I want to find a man that's half the man that my daddy is, right? So all these dads are sending in videos of them with their daughters, and daughters are sending in videos with their dad and putting it with our song, with our chorus of our song. And it just started blowing up on TikTok. And next thing we knew, like we had over 1 million streams on Spotify and over 1 million. Right now we're over 2 million streams on Spotify, over 3 million plays on Apple Music, and 2.5 million views on the video that they did for it on YouTube. And she got a record deal. These record labels came calling, because she was getting so much attention. It was just kind of a grassroots thing. The song's just taken off on its own. And so the label, she got 2 different record labels, big major record labels, and she ended up signing with a label, and it's going to be her first single. It's supposed to be coming out probably the next couple months.
That's awesome. Have you ever seen anything like that before?
No, no. It's a whole new world, and I would have never even thought to tell somebody to do that. But now I'm telling everybody to do it. Like, if you want a shot at this, like get on TikTok or get on, some of these, social media services, on the streaming platforms, where the music is going to get shared, and I think that's what's happening with the YouTube video right now is that people are sharing it. And I mean, we have, almost 2.5 million videos, 2.5 million views, and it just came out in June. So it's only been out for a couple months, and it's just kind of blown up on its own. And this was before, the label has done zero promotion of it. This is all just what it's done on its own. And that's what you want, is to find something that can kind of grassroots just take off on its own. And then, and then you can put some juice behind it, afterwards, and it goes, hopefully it'll go through the roof. But that's the crazy part of it. It's just, I would have never in a million years thought that, because traditionally what it would be like is like, okay, we're going to write some songs. We're going to go in the studio and record 3 or 4 songs. And then we'll go take some meetings with record labels, and then you sit down with the label guy and he goes, okay, I like this, or nah, it's not what I'm looking for. And you're off, you're out of there.
Yeah.
But, if they like, a couple songs, they kind of like, they do the dance. So, it's like dating before you get married, it's like, we're not going to put a ring on it just because I liked you on the first date. You got to come back and bring me a few more songs. We're going to have a few more dates before we're going to, ask you to marry us,
Exactly.
And that's the relationship between the artist and the label. And, and so the label's they're going to spend a lot of money promoting your single. And so they want to make sure that it wasn't just like a fluke. Okay, we got one good one, whatever. They want to make sure that you are consistently, writing and recording great songs so that they're going to have some longevity with you. Because it costs a label $1 million to work a first single on an artist. And to get a single to number one on a new artist generally costs about $1 million for a record label. That's how much, just in radio promotion and visiting radio stations and, and all the rest of that stuff that goes involved, and the staff that they have that's doing that, the salaries that they're paying these people. And, it takes quite a few weeks to keep it moving, and they got to stay on these radio stations. Like, hey, your spins are down. Get our spins up. We need to.
Yeah. So they're on.
Yeah, we're going for a top 10 this week. Whatever. And so all that stuff is like stuff that people don't even think about when you're just a singer. You're just thinking, oh, well, I like to sing. Okay, but there's a whole business side on the other side of that, and it's super important for people that are wanting to do this on that level to understand the business side of it, because you can do the music side and you can be an amazing singer. You can be the best singer in your bedroom, that you can possibly be. But until you understand the business side of it, and see what it is that the labels are looking for, what is it? The label needs to sell records. They need to get streams. They need to get, and now they do these 360 deals. And basically what that is they are taking a piece of your merchandise and taking a piece of your ticket sales, your shows.
Yeah.
So traditionally, it used to be back when we used to sell music that they would just take the record sales, because everything they'd put out would go gold or platinum, and you're selling 500,000 copies at $12 a CD. You're making a lot of money, and so they didn't really care, and the artists could go and make their money doing your shows and selling T-shirts and stuff like that. But nowadays, they don't have that revenue from selling CDs and records and tapes and all the rest of the stuff that they used to get all back in the day. So they're making it up by taking a piece of, and artists need to understand that too. Like when you sign a record deal, they're going to ask for a 360. They're going to want a piece of your ticket sales and a piece of your merchandise, and that's, cutting into where artists, make their money.
Yeah.
But, shoot, when I was out on the Kenny Chesney tour, I was playing with this guy named Jake Owen. We were on the Chesney tour. He was selling maybe $250,000 a night in T-shirts, just in T-shirts alone. He'd sell out stadiums, and they were selling between $200,000 and $250,000 a night in T-shirts. Yeah. So there's a lot of money that can be made. Look at what Taylor Swift's making. Geez, I can't even imagine she's probably making $500,000 a night just in T-shirts.
Yep.
And not counting even her ticket sales and all the rest of that stuff. But so that's just just business stuff that people need to understand that stuff. If you want to do this on that level, you have to understand the business side of it too. That's
awesome.
Real important.
That's awesome. So when you're on the other side, I interviewed actually an indie artist, kind of folk artist from Nashville. She goes between Nashville and Oregon. Her name's Jen Grenos. And she was talking about, the 1% that actually make it. And then there's the 99% that actually are working musicians, So I want to inform everybody that you don't have to be these, Lady Gagas and these Katy Perrys and stuff in order to have it in the music business, in order to, to do it. And now things like Patreon are coming about and, having all of that stuff. So can you talk a little bit about that, the 99%, since you've been so successful?
Absolutely.
But, you're not famous or a celebrity.
Right. And I think that there's definitely a lot of different avenues for deriving an income playing music.
Yeah.
And from like playing in nightclubs, playing, 5-6 nights a week, you could be playing, at different bars and you can make pretty good money doing that, just playing cover songs, not even playing your own music. And I mean, I know a lot of guys that play on downtown Broadway. I mean, they just play for tips down there, but the tourism is so high in Nashville that these guys will make $300 or $400 each, for a 4-hour shift.
Yeah.
They could do multiple 4-hour shifts, each day if they wanted to. I mean, because 7 days a week, there's a ton of tourists that are downtown Nashville that just want to go from bar to bar, and they make so much money on their tips that they're like, well, shoot, I won't even go on tour. I'm just going to stay here and, play downtown. And I know a lot of guys that are doing that have had a lot of success with that. And so, I mean, there's a lot of singers that come to town and they go, well, I'm just going to go and sing on Broadway. And a lot of them make a pretty good living doing that, and then there's other people that find a niche doing house concerts. I know some people that with an acoustic guitar, they just take their guitar and their car and they go drive around to people's houses and they do house concerts and they make a good living doing that too, and they make a certain amount of money and they get tips and, all the rest of the stuff and doing small theaters. There's so many different avenues. And like you said, Patreon is a whole nother avenue that I'm real excited about now too. I'm working with, I've started a Patreon page for Ty Herndon and I'm kind of helping to run it right now.
Nice.
And basically it's just putting a lot of content on there and giving content to people. What I do with it is I give them, a song a month. You get one brand new song each month, for $10 a month. And then you're also going to get content, like we're going to show you videos of us in the studio and behind the scenes and backstage at concerts and all the rest of the stuff that you don't get to see normally. Yeah. And the fans really enjoy that. I think they really love that. And you think about like your favorite artist, like if it was Sting or James Taylor or somebody, big like that, like for $10 a month, you get a brand new song that nobody else gets. I mean, come on, who wouldn't do that? These guys are missing out on a ton of money if they really wanted to. Think about the fan base that those guys have, and if they did that, or Katy Perry or Gaga or any of them, were to do something like that, they would clean up. I mean, because they have millions and millions of fans.
Oh yeah.
And all you got to do is we all write songs. I mean, I write probably 20 songs a month, so it's easy to find one song that I could give them. It's nothing. But I think that. Patreon is a great avenue, for up and coming artists to develop a fan base. And there's a lot of people that are making a really good career just from Patreon alone. Yeah. Because they give them a lot of content, and they do concerts. I mean, you can do little private concerts on Patreon. You can do, and only for your subscribers,
That's what's really amazing about it. I think
it's so great.
It's limitless of what you can actually do with it because it's all. Sure. That's just what's really great for singers, for musicians, for anybody who's in the arts. It really is such a great way. It's such a great avenue for an artist. So
I got another guy that I'm working with also that he does these FaceTime concerts and they're free, but they'll put their PayPal or their Venmo on there or something, and people just tip them. And he's making $400 or $500 a show to maybe $1,000 a show. Wow. Just doing that, and he does a couple shows a week. And make a couple grand a week, just from doing these FaceTime concerts where he's getting tipped.
And he's doing what he loves to do.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's, with COVID, we can't go and do like actual concerts anymore. So people are sitting at home, and they're afraid they're not really comfortable going out to a venue. You can sit at home and you can listen to, some artists that you love and not have to worry about getting sick,
Exactly.
So it's worked out really well, for keeping some of these musicians employed, during this volatile time that we're in right now.
We need it. Yeah, we need to keep them employed. Absolutely. Exactly. Keep the art alive. Absolutely. Yeah. So I wanted to one of the things I wanted to talk to you about when you're working also with a singer, or what are some of the things in the vocal project and when I'm working with clients one-on-one, one of the things I'm always stressing about is vocal health. They need to stay healthy. They need to warm up. They need to exercise the voice before they sing. They need to go through all of that. Singing is not, is not warming up. It's actually, you have to take it through. So what are some of the things that's because you're obviously a very accomplished guitarist.
Right.
And I'm trying to get these artists to get how much practice they need to put into it.
Well, I'll give you a really good example Of course, I've got an experience, that
I love it. Say story.
That can prove this point better than anything. We were out on tour. I was working with a group called Thompson Square, and they're a duo. It was a guy and a girl singer, and the guy was not warming up every day. He sings really hard and was drinking a lot after the shows, smoking pot and doing a lot of stuff, that are not really good for your voice, and it's, you got to be careful, we're out playing, big, huge concerts, and it's fun to party afterwards and stuff like that, but you have to take care of the instrument. And so what happened was we were in the middle of a big tour. We were on tour with Luke Bryan and Florida Georgia Line. And, and it was the biggest country tour of the year. And we were the middle act. Florida Georgia Line was still the opening act. This was when they were just their first year out. Wow. And I mean, every show was sold out. We're playing sold out arenas every night. And right in the middle, like right around June, the peak of, the summertime, we had to shut the whole thing down because he got some nodules, on his throat. I'm not probably saying it right, but there's nodules on your vocal.
They're on the vocal folds. Yeah. So it's basically like calluses that will form because he was probably singing very hard.
Right.
He wasn't giving the vocal folds enough breath, so they weren't coming together like they should. And so as it's kind of like a guitarist. If you're playing in a wrong sort of manner, you're going to get, you get calluses anyway.
Exactly.
But then you're going to get pain. You're going to get lesions. You're going to get all of that stuff if you're not playing in the correct way. There's no way you can play every night. Same for a singer. For a singer. So he did. He got vocal.
Yeah. So, I mean, the doctor he went to a Vanderbilt has some great doctors for vocalists and stuff like that. Oh, yeah. We have a lot of singers here.
Yep.
And so he went to this, a doctor at Vanderbilt, hospital. And he said, listen, you could finish out this tour and never sing again. Or you can take a month off, give your voice a rest, and let us teach you how to get back to where you're going to do and teach you the exercises, teach you how to warm up and all the rest of the stuff. And you're going to be able to sing the rest of your life. So you decide. So he said, all right, I got to take a month off. So, I mean, we missed out on all of June and part of July of, the biggest touring of arguably probably the biggest tour that they were ever on.
Yeah.
They had to miss out on, a month of it in the peak time of it, some of the biggest markets we were playing, and it was all because he wasn't practicing. He wasn't warming up. He wasn't taking care of his voice and partying after the show and all the rest of that stuff. He wasn't helping either, not getting enough rest.
Oh,
we're not invincible. Nobody's invincible. And this guy he's a phenomenal singer. He's a really great singer. But I think he thought that he was invincible. He thought he could just do it and just do it and do whatever he wanted to do. But, it doesn't matter how strong a singer you are, that muscle, if you're not singing right and taking care of it, it will give out on you.
I tell the vocalists all the time, we have 48 muscles that go into it takes 100 muscles in order to make sound. So that's why you need to be rested. It takes 48 of them from your throat all the way up to your nose. So you need to be taking care of those like crazy. Because those are the ones that you're using on a daily basis.
Exactly.
So like you said, there's no rest. There's hard, physical, limitations that he's putting on it. Then he's doing the other things that are, not good for it as well, which is, drinking is like dehydration. So it's dehydrating. It's doing all that stuff. And then doing all the other stuff. It's basically putting all of these chemicals and stuff on it. It's like, wow. How did you even think you were going to, maintain that?
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, that laryngeologist or even as a throat doctor is probably like, dude, okay, we got to change. We got to change here.
You're invincible until you're not.
Exactly. And, and with it, I don't know if you've ever come across like somebody who does that in the right way then, who can sing really, like growly or rough or anything, and they do it in the right way, and they warm up, and they use everything they need to use, and they drink plenty of water, and they get plenty of rest. And then once you see the other side of it, it's like, oh, okay.
Right, exactly. Well, look at Steven Tyler. He's got to be in his 60s, right? And he's still singing, all those high notes like he did back when he was 20 years old.
And it's crazy because it's what he does, and it's now since he's changed. Now he's sober and he does all of that stuff, and he gets rest and he does it. And I don't know if you heard him sing "Dream On" at It was for I can't think of his name now. It's the radio talk show host in New York, the shock jock guy,
Howard Stern.
Howard Stern. He went on, and I watched the performance of him do "Dream On" Howard Stern. He's 60-some years old, and he was still singing all the way up, and it sounded just like he did when he was 20.
Yeah,
like that's what it'll get you. That's what you can do for your voice. Absolutely.
Exactly.
Yeah, because now he sees laryngeologists. Now he warms up. Now he does all of that stuff.
Right. No more drugs or alcohol for him.
No more for him, man. No more for him. And it works. It works. It's proven. Yeah. So how many hours a day did you have to put in for playing guitar?
Oh God, I would play 8 hours a day. I mean, just because I wanted to, not because I had to, just because I was just loved it, and when I was in high school and stuff like that, every minute I could get my hands on it, I was working, playing it. I don't practice like I used to. Now I work more on things that I feel like are going to move my career forward, as opposed to just becoming, the hotshot guitar player. I did all that stuff in the 80s, trying to play as fast as I could and all the rest of that stuff. And, and that was fun, but I've come to find out that that's not super important for being able to work, and understanding, the things I work on now is more songwriting and tracking in the studio and finding parts and creating things. I think my technical abilities are good enough to do all that stuff. And I don't need to be like the most technical guitar player in the world, because most of those guys are guys that are sitting in their bedrooms, just playing on, putting videos on YouTube and, impressing other guitar players, like nerdy guitar players like me.
Exactly. They don't know the business side. They don't know all of that other side. They don't know how it goes in producing. And
they don't have a gig.
Nope, none of it. So I want to ask you one last question. Thank you so much for your time today, Erik. I mean, this is some of your information. Almost all of your information right now is going to be so beneficial, because it's seeing that other side of the business and seeing what it actually takes. But it's also seeing a lot of people come up to me and they're always like, okay, because I have a lot of songwriters, and they come up to me, they go, what makes a good song? How do you know if it's a good song? Mm-hmm. And so here I have a songwriter, a successful songwriter in front of me. What is it? Is there a formula, or is it just like being unique to you?
No, I think, that's a loaded question. There's really a lot that goes into that. And it's such a, personal thing, one of your students might think is a great song. One of your other students might think is a horrible song, and, it's such a, who's to say. But as far as like what gets here in Nashville, and I think Nashville's, the bar is set pretty high for songwriters. And what I've learned is that you have to come up with an idea that hasn't been said before. Find an idea that's been said a million times, but find a different way of saying it. So if you can find a different way of saying something that's been said a million times, that's a big part of it. Finding creative rhymes, not just, forever and together, or something like that's been used a million times, like you don't want to default to, rhymes like that. And here's the other thing, and this is a little secret that I use, is that you make your rhyme words a noun, something, make your rhyme words a thing, something that, like it's the toaster or the refrigerator, or I'm just looking around the kitchen here, but like something that, rather than just random, make things a little bit more specific and not just random, things. I think it's more important to get real specific and make it really creative, like a rhyme that nobody was expecting. Boy, I didn't expect that rhyme. Like you don't want the real predictable rhymes, like forever and then together and and never, stuff like that's so predictable. That song is going to get tossed out, before you even get to the chorus. If you have rhymes like that in your verse, so I say that's an important part of it, and making sure that, you have, and musically that you're coming up with something that is interesting. It doesn't have to be like a million different chords. I would say the opposite is probably more, keep it simple. Mm-hmm. Keep your chord progressions simple. Don't try and throw in every chord, and some of the biggest pop songs, the Katy Perry songs, they don't even change the chord progression. The verses and the chorus are the exact same chord progression all the way through. So, I mean, use that as a a guidepost of how simple you want to keep your songs. If you're trying to get into the pop market, whether it's country music or pop music, rock, whatever, keep things very simple and very easy for the masses to consume. And you want something that's not so far like, purple skies and, crazy stuff like that people are going to be able to relate to. Make sure it's relatable to a lot of people, not stuff that's like, what are they talking about? I have no idea what that's about, and people listen to lyrics. I think that the average music listener listens to lyrics and they get moved by them. If you don't make them laugh, you don't make them cry, you've got a problem.
There you go. So then the ultimate question that everybody always asks me is lyrics or melody or lyrics. What comes first?
It's different every time. I don't think that there's one way of doing that. It could be either. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times we start with a title. Okay. We'll bat around, like when I get into a writing session, and we do actual writing appointments here in Nashville, where we will get, okay, at 11 o'clock on Monday, I'm going to be writing with this guy. And on Tuesday at 10:30, I'm writing with this person, whatever. We actually do writing appointments and we schedule it so that it's like every day of the week, we're writing once or twice a day. And that's how you get really good at it. Mm-hmm. But, we usually start the writing session by batting around titles. What title you got? You've got a title, you got something. And then we just kind of like, okay, what does that feel like? And somebody will play a riff on a guitar, or a piano or something like that. And then we're kind of off and running and start building it from there. But usually for me, almost always the title begins. That's where we start with.
That's awesome. That's really interesting. That's awesome. Yeah. So now in one last question in this day and age, because you brought it up. I know I said that last question was now, but you got something going on my head. Is that I always say that singing and music is perspective. So if like one person, you show Adele to one person, you can show 1,000 people and they're going to love her. Or you can show Adele to another 1,000 people and they're going to hate her. So in your career and even working with artists, how, and especially nowadays with TikTok, with YouTube, with Instagram, all of these things where people can just off the cuff be like, you suck.
Right.
You're the most horrible singer ever, blah, 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 blah. How have you...
These experts out there, right?
They're such experts, right? They're such experts, exactly. So well-versed in music. Right. But how have you had to coach anybody through that? Or
you talk them off the ledge, because people get their feelings hurt, when somebody says they suck or whatever, and you just have to understand that where that's coming from. It's usually somebody that's jealous because they don't do it. Have this person ever, you never hear a great songwriter just completely trash somebody. A great songwriter, a great singer, a great artist, they will never go, oh, that person is horrible. Don't ever listen to that song. That's the worst song ever. It's the worst piece of trash. It's like they don't do that. The only people that do that are people that have never sat down to write a song, that have never sang before. They've never put all of themselves out for scrutiny, And once you've done that, you will never do that to somebody. I hear songs all the time that I think are awful and singers that I think are awful, but I would never go on there and go, oh my God, you suck. Because I know that what it takes for that person to put that on YouTube or put that on Spotify or whatever, and that's not for me to make that just judgment, and I would never do that. And I think that anybody else that is a musician or an artist or a songwriter, and especially the ones that are really good, would never do that. So just understand where that's coming from, that it's coming from somebody that's probably just jealous and probably they're not even a musician. So, why are you even worried about what that person has to say?
It's great advice. Great advice. We're going to leave it right there. Erik, thank you so much for joining us today on the Vocal Project. I can't even, this is going to be immense for our singers with all of the information that's going to come out of this. So thank you so much.
My pleasure.
And you have a good time down there in Nashville. And keep us posted. Is there any other thing you'd like to tell us about what's going on, what anybody can check out or anything like that?
Well, you guys are in Orange County, right?
We're actually in San Diego.
Oh, in San Diego. Oh, cool.
Yeah.
I'm out there quite a bit. I'm actually going to be out in San Diego in November, but I'm actually going to be doing a couple of shows in Seal Beach, which is up near Orange County, at a place called Spaghettini's.
Oh, we'll come out. Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, I'm playing there with Ty Herndon on November 9th. And then November 16th, the Black Sheep record label that I've been working with, both of our artists are going to be doing shows there on November 16th.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
Yeah. So I'll be in town for playing on both of those. Well,
then give those to us and we'll post it on ours and then we'll get some people out there. Absolutely. That'll be great. That'll be great.
Yeah.
Awesome. Again, thank you so much, Erik. And hopefully we'll talk to you soon. Okay, buddy?
Sounds good.
All right. Thanks.